I didn't realize I was stuck because nothing was wrong. That was the problem. From the outside, my life looked finished, not perfect, just assembled. A job that paid the bills, an apartment that felt neutral, people who expected me to show up and did the same in return. No chaos, no disasters, just days that stacked on top of each other until I stopped counting them. There was a moment. I still don't know why it stands out. I was standing in the kitchen, waiting for the coffee to finish brewing, staring at nothing, and I thought, if this is it, I could survive it. That thought scared me more than anything else. Her name was Claire. She didn't arrive dramatically. She had already been there. We'd known each other for years. Same circles, same dinners, same conversations that never went anywhere dangerous. She was safe. So was I. We ended up together because it made sense. That's the part no one warns you about. Sometimes love doesn't fail. It just never asks for more. Claire was kind in a steady way. She remembered birthdays, asked about my day, touched my arm when she laughed. She believed in plans. I believed in momentum. We met in the middle and called it commitment. The first year was easy, comfortable, too comfortable. There were no fights worth mentioning, just small absences. Moments where I wanted to say something and didn't. Moments where she waited for me to step forward and I stayed still. We learned how to avoid tension expertly. We were professionals at it. One night, lying in bed, she asked me, "Do you ever feel like something's missing?" The question hung between us. Careful, fragile. I could have answered honestly. Instead, I said, "Missing how?" She turned toward the wall. "That's okay," she said, but it wasn't. I started staying later at work, not because I had to, because it was easier than thinking. Emails don't ask personal questions. The thing about almost living is that it doesn't hurt. It numbs. Slowly, quietly. There was a man at my office, older, divorced, always calm. One afternoon, during a break, he said, "Don't wait too long to notice you're comfortable because you're afraid." He didn't look at me when he said it, but it landed anyway. That night, I watched Claire sleep. I tried to imagine our future. The house, the routines, the shared holidays, it all fit, and yet I felt nothing move inside me. I hated myself for that. She deserved certainty. I offered silence. Weeks passed, months. The days stayed polite, predictable, safe. Then something small happened. Too small to justify what followed. We were at a friend's birthday dinner. Loud restaurant. Too many conversations at once. Claire reached for my hand across the table. I hesitated, just for a second. But she felt it. She always did. Later, outside, she asked, "Why do you pull away like that?" "I didn't," I said. She looked at me for a long time. "You always say that." That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was upset, because I knew she was right, and I didn't know what that meant for us. I started asking myself questions I'd avoided for years. What do I actually want? What am I protecting? Who would I be if I stopped choosing the safest version of myself? The answers didn't come. Just pressure. Building. A week later, Claire said something casually while we were making dinner. Something ordinary. And that's when I realized I was already halfway gone. I didn't leave. Not yet. But something inside me shifted. Quietly. Irreversibly. And that was the beginning of the hardest honesty that would have been easier to explain. Instead, I stayed. And every day after that realization felt heavier than the one before. Claire sensed it before I admitted it to myself. She always had that way of noticing the spaces between words. "You're here," she said one evening, "but you're not really here." I wanted to argue. I didn't. We tried to fix it with effort. Date nights, plans, conversations that started with good intentions and ended in silence. We were careful with each other. Too careful. One Saturday, we drove out of the city. No destination. Just distance. The road stretched ahead, quiet and empty. She asked me what I was thinking. I told her the truth. "I don't know how to want things the way you do." She nodded slowly. "That's what scares me," she said. She didn't cry. That hurt more. I started taking walks alone. Long ones. No music, no phone, just the sound of my own thoughts catching up to me. I realized how long I'd been avoiding myself. There were moments I almost said it. I don't think this is enough for me. Each time, fear stopped me. Not fear of losing her. Fear of being the kind of man who walks away from something good without a dramatic reason. One night, she asked me directly, "Are you staying because you want to, or because you're afraid to leave?" I stared at the floor. The answer formed instantly. I just couldn't bring myself to say it. That's the thing about honesty. It demands courage at the exact moment you have the least of it. Work became my refuge. Promotion talks, deadlines, anything that made me feel productive instead of present. I told myself I was being responsible. Deep down, I knew I was hiding. Claire started pulling back, not out of anger, out of self-respect. She stopped asking questions she already knew the answer to, stopped waiting for reassurance I couldn't give. One evening, she packed a small bag, just a few things. "I'm not leaving," she said. "I just need space to think." I watched her at the door. The moment stretched. I didn't stop her. That silence said more than any confession. The apartment felt different without her. Not empty, exposed. There was nothing left to distract me from myself. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the same spot where I'd once waited for the coffee to brew. The thought returned. I could survive this. And suddenly, that wasn't comforting. It was devastating. Days passed. She didn't text. I didn't either. We were both listening to what the quiet was telling us. When she finally called, her voice was steady. "I need to know if you're willing to meet me halfway," she said, "or if I need to stop hoping." I closed my eyes. For the first time, I didn't answer quickly. "I don't want to almost live anymore," I said. There was a pause. Then she whispered, "I was afraid you'd say that." We met the next day. Public place, neutral ground. She looked tired. So did I. She asked me if I loved her. I said yes, because I did. But love wasn't the question anymore. "I need someone who chooses me," she said, "not someone who settles." I nodded. That truth landed clean. No drama, just clarity. We sat there for a long time, two people acknowledging something neither of us wanted, but both of us knew. When we stood to leave, she hugged me, longer than necessary, shorter than forever. "I hope you find what you're looking for," she said. I almost said "you too," but that felt like a lie. As I walked away, I realized something terrifying. The hardest part wasn't losing her. It was finally admitting I didn't know who I was without the life I'd been hiding inside. And I knew. The next decision wouldn't be about us. It would be about whether I was willing to face myself. Nothing dramatic happened. No collapse. No sudden freedom. Just mornings that felt unfamiliar. I kept reaching for my phone, not to text her, to check if the silence had changed. It hadn't. The apartment still held her shape. A mug she liked, a book I never read, space on the bed that felt intentional now. I didn't rush to fill it. For the first time in years, my days were unscheduled, not empty, unclaimed. I tried to sit with that. Some days I succeeded. Others I distracted myself with noise, errands, conversations that went nowhere. Old habits don't disappear politely. I started writing things down, not goals, questions. What do I want when no one's watching? Who am I when I'm not being needed? What am I afraid will happen if I stop choosing comfort? Most days I didn't like the answers, but they were mine. Weeks passed, then months. The ache softened, not because it vanished, because I stopped resisting it. I saw Claire once more. By accident, grocery store, same aisle, different energy. We smiled, nothing rushed back. That told me everything. She looked well, grounded. I was glad, not in a selfless way, in a relieved one. We spoke for a few minutes. Nothing heavy, nothing unresolved. When we said goodbye, it felt complete. That surprised me. I changed things slowly, not the dramatic kind, just enough to feel aligned. I said no more often. I said yes with intention. I listened when something inside me tightened. There were lonely nights. There still are, but they feel honest, not like a warning, like space. I don't tell this story as a lesson. There's no formula here. Just one man realizing that a life built on avoidance still costs you everything. I loved Claire. That's true. But I never fully chose my life, and she felt that long before I admitted it. Now, when I stand in my kitchen waiting for the coffee to finish brewing, I notice myself again. Not numb, not restless, present. I don't know what comes next, and for the first time, that doesn't scare me, because whatever it is, I won't almost live it.